It's been a long summer, but the wait is finally over. School is back in session, and so are we.
From football to volleyball, we've got you covered on all things USC athletics. Sports Scene starts now.
Coming at you from Studio C in the Julie Chen, Leslie Moonves, and CBS Media Center, welcome to Sports Scene. I'm Kristen Lago.
And I'm Keely Eure. The number 6 ranked USC football team is back on the gridiron, and the Trojans are off to a winning start.
USC moved to 2-0 on the season after Saturday's 59-9 rout over Idaho. The Trojans gained 737 total yards in the win, more than double the Vandals' offensive production. So, Keely, what were your top takeaways from the Idaho game?
I think the defense played well, but an unfortunate side was that they came out flat in the second half. They didn't adjust to the hurry-up offense that Idaho showed, and that was kind of a problem last year, them showing flatness in the second half. But on the other hand, the offense looked good, both career-high nights for Cody Kessler and Jodee Smith, and it looks like the two have gotten their chemistry down heading into Pac12 play. It looks like there's improvements from week 1 to week 2. What did you see as far as adjustments?
I think my biggest adjustment that I saw was from the offensive line. I mean, in week 1, in the season opener versus Arkansas State, we saw an offensive line that let up 5 sacks, and that's unacceptable. I mean, we saw Cody Kessler in distress, not being able to pass the ball at all times, and then going into week 2, he was never under distress. I mean, you said it first, he had a career-high night, over 400 yards, so I think the offensive line really got it together. They got their communication on tact, and I'm excited to see them going forward this week as we take it to Stanford. So speaking of Pac-12 play, it's Stanford week at USC. So what did you see from practice today?
I think the two big things coming out of practice were that Kevon Seymour tweaked his knee against Idaho. We didn't necessarily know that coming out of the game. And Sark said that if he's not ready for Stanford, he's not going to push it, he's not going to play him. Another thing we saw coming out of practice was that Lamar Dawson was back practicing for the first time since fall camp after his rib injury. He did get reps with the second team, but I would expect Cameron Smith to still get the start on Saturday.
It will be really interesting to see who makes the starting lineup this weekend. The Trojans will take on the Stanford Cardinal this Saturday at the Coliseum at 5 p.m. And playing a pivotal role in that game will be running back Justin Davis.
We got to prepare harder this week because Stanford's got to bring it. They always bring it. And we got to have a really intense practice week so we can get ready for the game.
You just heard from Justin Davis. Now I'm joined by Jackson Stefan and Paolo Ughetti. So guys, what have we seen from the freshman tailbacks these past 2 games?
Well, the standout's been Ronald Jones. He's been running all over the field. He's got 2 40-yard runs in each game and a touchdown in each game. He's been compared a lot to Jamal Charles. He's very dynamic in the running game, so he's gotten the brunt of the carries, and he's just produced so far.
And Dom Davis has really shown a lot in the pass game. He's a really explosive back. He's done a lot. He had a few carries last game, but has showed a lot in the pass game. Juju Smith compared him to DeAnthony Thomas, and while I don't think he's quite at that level, you really see the explosiveness.
Justin Davis returned from his injury. He had a great performance on Saturday. Do we see the freshman running backs not getting as much time now that he's back and now that we're heading into Pac-12 play?
Well, running backs coach Johnny Nansen said that he's not looking at the 3 freshman group as separate. He's looking at them as a collective because he knows that they all bring something different to the table. So he said he's looking to use them into Pac-12 play and into the future, just utilizing them depending on what they each bring to the field.
And having the stable of 5 running backs will work to keep all of them fresh and have the best players like Justin and Trey at the end of the games.
Sark said on Saturday that 14 freshmen played, all eligible players played. That kind of gives us an idea of who's going to redshirt this year.
Absolutely. John Houston and Keely Ross are 2 people that are most likely going to redshirt, and that's probably good for them as they're going to be key members contributing in years going forward.
Roy Hemsley is also on that list. He's probably not. He hasn't gotten any playing time, so he'll definitely be one of the ones who redshirt as well.
Now, we're seeing this trend where you're playing your freshmen instead of redshirting them. Do you think in college football we're going to see that more?
Definitely. I think Stark's really embraced that type of recruiting aspect where he's telling guys that are coming in, like, you're going to play right away, we're going to put you in, we're going to rotate you out. You're going to get a lot of playing time and a lot of exposure. And that's also helping him bring in some of the top recruits in the nation and also make the team better as a whole because, like he said, he wants the freshest players, the best players, to be ready in the 4th quarter to play.
And adding on to what the type of players Stark recruits, he's definitely recruiting more players like Adoree Jackson who are versatile and who can contribute on multiple positions and multiple special teams, defense, and offense. And so that also helps them to get to start playing earlier on.
Another position group we've been seeing making an impact as freshmen are the linebackers. Sua Cravens had something to say about them after Saturday's game.
They're playing really good, really well. Cam Smith starting for us at Mike as a true freshman. That's big, and next week's going to be a big test for him, so we'll see.
Paolo and I are now at the whiteboard to break down the position group of the linebackers. So, Paolo, we've seen a lot of looks from the linebacking group in practice and during games. Against Idaho, this is what we saw. We saw Sua, we saw Cam Smith over Lamar Dawson because he's injured, Anthony Cerro, and Scott Felix. What did we see in the second drive against Idaho?
Well, in the second drive, Sark went with the rotation that he's been using a lot, and then put in Osa Messina and Porter Gustin right away to start the game. And as soon as Osa and Porter came in, you could see the explosiveness that they have and that made them such highly regarded recruits. Porter immediately rushed the quarterback and forced an incompletion. So you can see right away that both of them have huge potential.
And Osa has been getting more reps than Anthony Cerro in practice. Do you see this as, oh, this is a freshman getting more reps because Anthony's a veteran, or do you see this as a freshman eventually overtaking a redshirt senior?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both. Eventually, we do expect Osa to really embrace that role and become the starter there. It may not be this year, maybe next year, but like Sark said, he really wants his best players to be fresh in the fourth quarter. So I think he's using that because he wants them to have even amount of reps so that whether it's Sarah who comes back in the fourth quarter, he'll be ready and fresh to go.
And lastly, we don't know if Lamar Dawson is going to be good to go. He got reps with the second team today. Do you see Lamar Dawson coming back for Cam Smith, or Cam Smith holding the starting spot?
That's really tough because obviously you got experience on one side and potential and upside on the other. So it'll be interesting to see whether Stark and the linebacking coach go with Cam, who's been the one who's been getting the reps so far throughout the season, or if they go back to Lamar Dawson when he returns from injury.
All right. This linebacking group could arguably be the best position group on the team. Now let's toss it over to Kristen to break down the upcoming Pac-12 schedule.
Thanks, Keely. USC has moved up to number 6 in the AP polls, and many have them as a playoff contender this year. I'm joined by Garrett Schwartz and Aaron Glazer to discuss the upcoming season. So first off, how can the Trojans keep this momentum going looking forward?
Well, I think going forward, the USC defense is going to have to continue to be dominant, giving up only 15 points for the first 2 games. That's the 6th best in the FBS, and actually the best since the Trojans have not played an FCS opponent. The defense is going to have to continue to be huge, especially looking at Stanford this Saturday.
When we look at Stanford this Saturday, we have to consider the past of Stanford. They took a 16-6 loss at Ryan Field in Evanston 2 weeks ago to a very good Northwestern team, but came back and played a strong game against UCF last week. Stanford's good, and going into the Coliseum will be tough for them, no doubt, because of the USC fans. However, I believe that Stanford will pose a significant chance for USC, but in the end of the day, USC is USC. I think the Trojans will pull it out.
Absolutely. Going into the game, USC 10-point favorites. It could be a trap game for USC. They got to be ready to come into that game strong to continue their momentum from the first 2 weeks of the season.
So other than Stanford, looking forward to the rest of the schedule, who's the biggest opponent? Who's the biggest challenge for the Trojans this year?
So when I look at the rest of the schedule, I think of 3 key games that come to mind, and that is at Notre Dame, at Oregon, and home against UCLA. So starting off with Notre Dame, South Bend is always a difficult place to play. However, last week when they were in Charlottesville playing the Virginia Cavaliers, Notre Dame quarterback Malik Zaire suffered a season-ending right ankle injury. This is problematic. While redshirt freshman Deshaun Kaiser led the Fighting Irish to a win against UVA Cavaliers, I don't know what his applicability is to the team going forward. Could be an easier game than we thought for the Trojans going into South Bend.
Yeah, hopefully Notre Dame can figure out how to plug in those new pieces. But I think the last 2 games of the season, like you said, at Oregon, home against UCLA, those are going to be the 2 most challenging games for the Trojans. Oregon obviously suffered a loss this week to number 5 Michigan State. On the road, there's still going to be a challenging opponent. Vernon Adams Jr. is filling in great for Marcus Mariota. And then looking ahead the following week to UCLA. Quarterback sensation Josh Rosen has been phenomenal. UCLA's big size on the line on both sides of the ball poses a serious issue to USC. We have 2 extremely tough games heading into potentially the Pac12 championship at the end of the season.
Well, thanks, Garrett and Aaron. It should be an exciting season to watch the rest of the year. Shifting gears, it's time to wrap up all the latest USC sports news around campus. It's time to light the torch.
Thanks, Kristen. To start, we'll light the torch with women's soccer. USC had a 2-1 victory Friday and a double overtime tie on Sunday. Our own Cooper Perkins talked with Kayla Mills, who had the winning goal in Friday's match.
Stayed really positive. Like, there were so many people on the team that stayed super positive and like kept me up, you know, like if I was getting frustrated, and our coaches were super positive that we could win it the whole time. So I just, you know, like I'm just fortunate to, so blessed to be on this team and like be surrounded by those positive people.
With only 2 games before Pac-12 play, the women of Troy will look to capitalize on their positivity and their offensive strength heading into their matches this weekend. Now heading indoors, the volleyball team has been off to a 10-0 start. They're on a 9 straight set sweep and have won 29 sets in a row. This week, they jumped from number 6 to number 3. Senior outside hitter Samantha Bricio has been leading the women of Troy. Monday, Bricio was named the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Week for the 3rd week in a row. She is only the 2nd player in league history to do so. She has been dominating with her play on the court, leading the team with 159 kills so far this season, and she has flourished in her new leadership role.
Well, she's doing what we hoped she would do, mature into a player of the year type player, but more her leadership and her maturity seemed to be the biggest thing. You know, when she came as a freshman, she was only 17, so she's just really a young 21 right now. She's accepting a lot of responsibility, and she seems to be having a lot of fun doing it.
The women of Troy play their final 2 matches this weekend before Pac-12 play next week. Now we'll head over to Haley to see what some of USC's athletes are up to on Twitter.
Thanks, Jodee. Athletes come up with some of the best tweets in the game, but here at USC, our athletes take the cake. Without further ado, here are the top 3 tweets of the week. Kicking off the number 3 spot is USC Athletic Director Pat Hayden. He tweeted out, "I remember having to do my own laundry in college. Hashtag times have changed." Don't worry, Mr. Hayden, I still do my own laundry. At number 2, here's USC soccer player who shows us, athletes, they're just like us. She took to Twitter saying, "I hate when I get caught taking a double glance at someone like, sorry, just checking you out real quick." And coming in at number 1 is none other than football captain Sua Cravens. He tweeted, "Even my cat Kirby studies film. One day he'll be watching your NFL film, Sua." That's the best of the best from this week. For more interesting tweets, just follow our athletes. Kristen, back to you.
The Trojan team added a new member to their roster today. Blind freshman long snapper Jake Olson took Howard Jones Field for the first time this morning, not as a fan, but as a player. Jake's addition to the team has been in the works for some time. After receiving a waiver from the NCAA and clearing both safety and medical hurdles, he will finally be able to live out his dream. Olson has been with the team in an honorary role since the Pete Carroll era. When Olson announced he was attending USC, head coach Steve Sarkisian said he would find a way to get him into a game. And that's all for us here at Sports Scene from Studio C in the USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism. I'm Kristen Lago.
And I'm Keely Eure. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.